Good morning and welcome back. We're back on the Saturday 6 beat. Excited for the season. We're here and sort of like what I'm calling sort of the early returns. It's somewhat of a light week, I guess you could say at the top. We really only have the Texas-Michigan game, but there are some really good quality matchups here that I think are going to help us understand throughout the season how these conferences and teams stack up. And there are, like I said, like there are below this Texas and Michigan game, there are some games that I think are pretty good, and we're going to go through them. So there are some games that I think should be close, should be fun to watch. And we're going to learn a lot. And some of these teams do come in, even again, below the top level, do come in, I think, with some high expectations into the season. These games are going to be important for whether they hit those expectations or not. Thus far this season, don't be a Florida State fan. That's an unfortunate place to find yourself. But I do think largely other teams, we don't know a lot yet. And I'm not sure after this week we're going to have full conclusions. Of course, like it'll only be on a lot of these games, after 2 weeks. For a good number of teams in college football, we will still only have one game against an FBS opponent. My favorite teams in the early college football season, of course, are the ones that play two FBS opponents in the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So Florida State, I do appreciate you here. That is what we need, I think. And look, Beta Rank doesn't take into account, games against FCS opponents after week 2. So all the FCS games are actually going to get dropped after this week, because everyone should have at least one game in against an FBS opponent, which is critical. And the important thing here is that, we're looking at the like versus like. Look, FCS opponents just simply don't have the same budgets. They don't have the same, number of scholarships that they're awarding out. Just the amount of money on its own is just not the same. So it's not useful to use those as a comparison point for FBS teams. The model tends to predict better if those games are dropped. If this is your first time tuning in, this is an advanced stats preview. We're going to run through, for right now, it is mostly data from last season and the preseason projections that are weighted in here. As more data comes in for this season, of course, more of that data will begin to take and carry the weight of the rankings. So do take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. I'll be frank about that. This isn't the model in like week 7 or 8 where I'm like, we're humming along. This is, and we have a good idea of where these teams are and who these teams are. In this case, it's, there's a little more ambiguity, or a lot more ambiguity, depending on how you want to look at it, given where these teams are. So Beta Rank's an advanced stat system built on the same data provided to the folks that provide data to the college football committee. It's really high quality data. It allows us to do some very fast modeling without a lot of data cleanup, which is a plus. Like this is, and truly too is like, and I do appreciate, make a good faith effort. Like if you're going to come into the comments or something like that, like don't respond with something like yards per game or something like that. Stats that don't control for tempo, for opponent quality, for field position, aren't really making an effort to understand football. Here, we also try to understand game state. So Beta Rank controls for those things. We also try to control for whether we've entered garbage time or not, and whether both teams are really trying anymore, or if we're just getting the backup some minutes. All of that is accounted for within Beta Rank. And the goal here is to try to figure out really, outside of, and this, I feel like I sound like somebody's like dad. It's not whether you win or lose, but how do teams play the game, right? Like underneath the wins and losses, which do contain a significant amount of randomness. I mean, football, I think in particular, part of what makes football appealing is that turnovers do carry so much weight, and there's a still quite significant amount of randomness within turnovers. So I think trying to understand underneath the randomness that does make up part of college football or football in general, and part of what makes, I think, football so appealing is that you can have upsets. Who's actually really good at football, and how are they good at football? Anyway, we run through, this is your first time tuning in, we run through 6 games. I try to keep to 5 minutes a game. I have a timer. I sometimes am able to stick to that. This week I might actually be better at it, because I'll be caveating it with like, there's a lot of last season data still in some of these numbers. But it's what we've got. It's useful to look at teams still based on the small amount of data we have from this season, and then the bulk of the data coming from last season, to be able to really understand what teams are able to do. So I'm excited. We've got a couple of good games. We got some really good games. I think some close games that are going to be fun to preview. There's even a really good group of 5 matchup. I don't know if do we still call it the group of 5? I mean, sure. Why not? It's like, it's power 4 now. But we're going to stick to group of 5. Anyway, we've got a really good matchup there too between 2 Mountain West teams that I'm excited to preview. Should be a fun one. I'm excited to get into these. Let's get it going. All right, so start out. We've got number 9 Texas at Michigan. Steve Sarkisian's your head coach at Texas. Sharon Moore is your new head coach at Michigan. This is the of course the headline matchup of this week. Texas comes in with legitimate, national championship aspirations. Michigan also has, a really good shot to make the playoff themselves. The schedule for them is pretty favorable, I think, and if they can get through this season with only 2 losses, you absolutely have to be talking to them as a potential playoff contender. This game profiles is a really close game. Now, the Texas offense we have ranked at 23 right now. This, again, has a significant amount of last year's data in it. Steve Sarkisian is your play caller here. Wink Martindale is your play caller for this Michigan defense. Texas, if we look at this, and again, there's a lot of this season data and a lot of last season data in here. They struggled a bit with drive efficiency. That's being able to sustain drives, to be able to put up points. That requires play calling. It requires execution. They need to be able to do this better coming into this season. However, they're a bit better at explosive drives, putting up big plays. Again, these numbers need to improve. This offense overall, for considering the kind of offensive numbers Sark put up at Alabama and put up at USC, they need more offensive output. In large part, Ewers has been what they've needed to unlock here. But they need to be more explosive as well. 22 in explosive drives. Play efficiency is the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics, but they have a decent number here. Where they kind of excelled, mostly last season and so far have done pretty well this season too, is a negative drive, sitting at number 11 overall. This season, and this is this season data only for this, they are relying more on the pass than they are the run, sitting at number 14 overall in effective pass, number 56 in effective rush. Not really surprising. I think Texas, they had a lot of receivers they had to replace that went off to the NFL. However, they felt really good about the guys they had coming in to fill those shoes. Of course, the running back injuries that they had coming in out of fall camp really set them back. So it's not all that surprising that they're not running the ball as much. This Michigan defense was really, really good last season. We've got them at number 5 overall right now, with a bunch of last season data and a little bit of this season data mixed in. They sit at number 17 overall in drive efficiency. You can get some longer drives against them. That's something to keep an eye on here. We have a somewhat of a grasp. We have a very loose grasp on this season and understanding it thus far. But I would say this Michigan, seeing where these two shake out here, is Texas able to put together long drives? Is that an actual vulnerability for this Michigan defense? Is going to be interesting. They've done a really good job at containing explosive drives, again, over last season and carrying into this season. Their play efficiency number is pretty good. Their negative drives number is excellent at number 5 overall, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers, forcing the offense to go backwards and do bad things. They're at number 4 in effective rush versus number 9 in effective pass. I'm interested to see. They have some really, really good players at defensive line and at corner. The matchup here for them, are they able to disrupt Texas? Wink Martindale does tend to blitz a lot. Will that hold up? Will this, and that, where that can cost you is it can cost you in explosive drives. You might be able to keep that, bring that drive efficiency number down, because you are able to do timely blitzes, find ways to get off the field, force negative drives. But blitzing a lot can sometimes, you can give up big plays. That explosive number could come up a bit. We've got Quinn Ewers as your quarterback here, 74.1% completion percentage, 9.6 per. Flip it over to the other side of the football. Kirk Campbell's your new play caller for this Michigan offense. They sit at number 18 overall right now. Solid numbers. Number 15 at drive efficiency. They're at 17 in explosive drives. They weren't terribly explosive last season. They were a bit more efficient at and this is a typical ground and pound type offense. They tend to be more efficient at drive and efficiency, being able to sustain drives to put up points. Their negative drives numbers come up a bit. That's something to keep an eye on here. They struggled a little bit with Fresno State with 3 and outs a bit. They're unsurprisingly number 9 in effective rush versus 39 in effective pass. We've got Davis Warren as your quarterback, 60% completion percentage, 4.7 per last week. It's going to be interesting here. Kwiatkowski is your defensive coordinator for Texas, Pete Kwiatkowski. One of the better defensive coordinators in college football. This was really a defense first team last season for Texas. They had a really rough game against Washington, but largely the defense had a really good season. They were number 5 last season in beta rank. They're up at number 11 right now, coming into this year. Their drive efficiency number is really solid. What's interesting about Kwiatkowski is he did a really good job at Washington, where he was the DC, of limiting big plays. You could often, he'd have a too high safety look, and the safeties were often so high they wouldn't show up on the TV screen at all. And if you were watching the TV view of it, or the broadcast view. Number 11 in explosive drives, like that's last season. It did appear that Kwiatkowski had actually switched his trade-off and was more willing to try to contain long drives and willing to trade off a little bit more for big plays. We'll see what that's like coming into this year. Number 20 overall in negative drives. They need to force more 3 and outs, force more turnovers. They're a lot better against the pass than they are against the run. So if you're a Michigan fan, and this is for this season only, if you're a Michigan fan, certainly keep an eye on that. That Colorado State game, though, was such a blowout. I wouldn't stick too much on it right now. Colorado State also tends to throw the ball a lot. So Michigan was probably in some pretty light, Texas was probably in some pretty light boxes in that game. Not likely to be the case here. I wouldn't hang my hat on that too much, but this should be a really good matchup. We're going to get to see if Davis Warren can actually open this up a lot, because if Michigan can't throw the ball very effectively against Texas in this game, Texas is going to be able to load up that box. Oh, and we've got Michigan at a 52% win probability and a 1.23, favored by 1.23 in naive spread, but we've got Texas by 9 in the predicted score. This is a really interesting one. I mean, they're all interesting. At least I didn't say fascinating. That's my other one I fall back on sometimes. We've got an Iowa State team that comes in projected pretty high into this season. Number 12, they return a ton of production coming into this year. They return most of the coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, and they also finished last year pretty strong down the back stretch. Now, Iowa State is a notorious slow starter, so this early season ranking for in beta rank from the projections is absolutely a place that I could get egg on my face. Iowa comes in at number 30 overall. Kirk Ferentz, of course, is your head coach. You got a new offensive coordinator for the Hawkeyes. That, of course, makes this particularly interesting game. Offensively, the Cyclones aren't killing it right now. This is a lot lower than we had them last season at 67 overall. The early season data for them is only okay. They struggled with drive efficiency thus far in this season. I mean, again, this is mostly last season data, but it's weighted down. So early season data, even though it's only odd game, is going to count for a lot in this. They struggled with explosive drives. They've been pretty good at play efficiency and even better at negative drives here. I'm not going to worry too much about one game's worth of data. This is the game that's probably going to tell us a lot about them, or at least a lot more about them. Like, they're going to get themselves against one of the more consistent and better defenses in college football. They certainly threw the ball last week better than they ran it. That's unsurprising. Rocco Becht is your quarterback here. He's got a 76.9% completion percentage, 10.3 per. Taylor Mouser is your new offensive play caller for the Cyclones here. And Phil Parker, of course, is your longstanding and one of the best in college football defensive coordinator for the Hawkeyes. We've got them at number 2 right now. They struggled a little bit in drive efficiency in their first game, but they were really good at limiting big plays. I should say all of these defensive metrics are scaled against the offense, because I always want to make sure that you have an idea, because it is a bit more of an offensive game these days, of where these numbers would actually stack up. Like even the very best defenses of college football, when they face the very best offenses, are going to give up some points these days. Number 4 in play efficiency. Again, it's the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics, but they've got a good number there. Number 2 in negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They're on it so far here, and I expect that to continue. Number 1 in effective pass versus number 2 in effective rush. This pass defense, I think we're going to find out a lot more about this week. Iowa State, with Rocco Becht at quarterback, has been pretty effective throwing the football around. I'm really excited for this matchup here. The matchup that I think is also going to tell us a lot. Look, I know Iowa fans are like, our offense is a lot better than this. There's a lot of last season data in this still, because you can't make rankings based on one game, mostly against FCS teams. That would be bananas. Anyway, the Iowa offense, Tim Brewster is your new, it's Brewster, right? It's not Tim Lester. I forgot. If it's the other one, then, put in the comments I'm an idiot. I did that. I wrote that down I was like, it felt right in my heart when I wrote Brewster. Anyway, the offense here, there's still a lot of last year's data in it, so they're at 124 right now. Their offense, this was just a terrible offense. They looked better last week. We're going to find out a lot about who they really are coming into this week. Cade McNamara is your quarterback here, 67.7 completion percentage, 8.1 per. I mean, you definitely you don't want to be in the Davis Warren place where your first game which is usually against subpar competition. Completing less than 5 yards per pass. So Iowa at least beats the Davis Warren test. I'm interested to see them against what is largely not, of course, in the Iowa range of defenses, but John Heacock, who's your defensive coordinator here for Iowa State, does a good job. I think given where Iowa State recruits at, I think that they do a really good job developing players here, and he usually has a consistently pretty good defense. This is an opportunity for us to see this Hawkeye offense against real live bodies, really. So we've got Iowa State at 34 overall right now. They're at 25 in drive efficiency. They do a pretty good job limiting long drives for points. They do a pretty good job also with explosive drives. Where they struggle a little bit is negative drives. They could certainly pick this up, force more 3 and outs, force more turnovers. No big run pass split. I'm interested to see. I think Iowa's still going to try to run the ball to key off. I'd be fascinated if they're actually decided to really open it up and throw the ball here, and that's their new offense. That would be a brave new world where maybe Phil Parker's back is not going to get as sore from carrying Kirk Ferentz around. Anyway, we've got this Iowa State at 71% win probability and favored by 6. That's about the same in the point prediction model. Look, a lot of that is based on Iowa State just is projected really well coming into the season. We'll see how well this is held up. It's not held up thus far for Virginia Tech and SMU, which is unusual. Normally, returning production is actually fairly predictive of how a team is going to play into the next season. All right, here's a fun one. This is a fun one. Josh Heupel is your head coach for Tennessee. Dave Doran is your head coach for North Carolina State. We've got the Tennessee offense sitting right now at number 30 overall. I thought the Tennessee offense was recession-proof. And man, they proved me wrong last year. I was impressed when Heupel took over his first year. He had a quarterback that wasn't really suited for an air it out offense, so they ran the ball with him, and they were really effective running the ball, and they had a great offense. Last year with Joe Milton, they just couldn't figure it out. He could not sustain an air it out offense, and they didn't switch to him running the ball or put in a different quarterback. They were all right with drive efficiency, 20 overall, 54 in explosive drives. They need to put up more big plays. They're at 21 in negative drives. That's something they could clean up. Look, this Tennessee offense, if Tennessee's going to reach Heupel's expectations and, reach the expectations that I think the boosters have at Tennessee, and they've certainly shelled out some money for some recruits. they're gonna have, this offense is the engine, and Heupel is, one of the better offensive play callers in college football. They've got to get back into the top 5. They had a significant fall off last season. Right now they sit at 32 in effective rush, 37 in effective pass. No big split here. This is going to be a really good matchup. I know we've got this, and it's Nico Iamaleava. I may have just mangled that. Anyway, I'm sure I will get, we're probably going to talk about him a bit this season. I'm sure I'll figure out how to say it at some point. It's early. So he's got a 78.6% completion percentage, 11.2 per. Those are wonderful numbers that will likely come down because you're not playing against air all the time. You eventually have to play somebody good. This NC State defense under Tony Gibson has been really good and really consistent. 31 overall, where we have them right now, is actually really low for them. I'm excited to see them against this team here and see what they've got. Tony Gibson, for my money, is one of the better defensive play callers in college football. NC State's pretty lucky to have him. He hasn't been poached yet. They were there thus far, and again, mostly last season data, but with a lot of weight towards a very small amount of this season data. Number 5 in drive efficiency. They've done a really good job avoiding giving up long drives for points, but they did give up some big plays. They're at 33 in negative drives. They're pretty good at forcing 3 and outs and forcing turnovers. They're better against the pass than they are against the run. I'm interested to see what this Tennessee offense really shakes out like. Are they looking to air it out or not? And is this NC State defense able to really contain them? This is a fun matchup. This is sort of the highlight matchup for me, for this game. This matchup's pretty good too. I mean, I don't want to sell it too short. Robert Anae is your offensive play caller for NC State. Tim Banks is your play caller for Tennessee's defense. This is kind of where they've sat. I mean, we'll get to them in a second, I guess. This offense for NC State, they've struggled just to find, under Doran, to find the right guy to really make this work. With play callers, Tim Beck has been through here, a few other guys. Anyway, they struggle with drive efficiency, sustaining long drives to be able to put up points. They're better at explosive drives. Their negative drives number is not bad. Again, small sample size of data. I think we're going to find out a lot more this week where they sit. They're at 71 in effective rush, 54 in effective pass, definitely leaning a little bit more towards throwing the football around. Grayson McCall is your quarterback here, that Grayson McCall. 65% completion percentage, 8.0 per. This Tennessee defense, they've needed to take a step forward for a couple seasons. Banks cleaned up some of the really dumb stuff, but that doesn't mean that they started to do a bunch of really good stuff. They've kind of been a middle of the road Power 5, Power 4 defense for a couple seasons. They need to take a step forward out of the 20s and into the teens at least this year. They're at 21 in drive efficiency. They do a decent job, avoiding giving up long drives. They're a little bit worse at explosive drives, giving up long plays. And their negative drives number sits at 44 overall, as same as their play efficiency number. They're not forcing enough 3 and outs, not forcing enough turnovers. They don't have a big run pass split. But look, I think for NC State, I think that there are some kind of fun expectations coming into this season. Some of that may just be college football nerds excited about seeing Grayson McCall in a Power 4 uniform. Which isn't the end of the world. But I think that for them, this will be a good matchup against what, at the very least, we've certainly said, and Tennessee needs to take a step forward on defense. They're still a competent defense and should give us an idea where this sits. We've got this with Tennessee, a 63% win probability, 3.56 in the naive spread, and in the points prediction model, Tennessee 5.8. This is a fun early season conference matchup that probably both of these teams need to win in order to hit the expectations that these coaches probably have to deal with. So we've got, of course, Mark Stoops is your head coach at Kentucky. Shane Beamer's your head coach at South Carolina here. This Kentucky offense, Bush Hamdan, former offensive coordinator at Washington, where it largely didn't, it wasn't terrible, but it largely didn't work. And then he went to Boise State and it kind of worked. And now he's at Kentucky. Look, it wasn't the debacle. There was a debacle after, I've forgotten the guy's name, John. oh my gosh, what was that guy's name? He was really bad as an offensive play caller. The guy Jimmy Lake hired. Anyway, Hamdan at Boise, and I admire people where like they don't give up. They go somewhere else, they kind of get things going, they figure it out, and they move on. Hamdan has that opportunity here. He did a good job at Boise after struggling at Washington. I think he's got an opportunity to turn this Kentucky offense around. They had a really good year a couple seasons ago in Liam Cohen's first go-round with the Wildcats. It did not work out last season with his return to the Wildcats. In steps Hamdan. We've got them at 38 overall. They've struggled with drive efficiency, being able to sustain drives to put up points. They're better at big plays, 20 overall. That's something to keep an eye on in this game. Their play efficiency number is decent. Their offensive negative drives, too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. They're better running the ball than they are throwing the ball. That's something to keep an eye on here. Brock Vandergraaf is your quarterback, 67.7% completion percentage, 9.4 per. Clayton White is your defensive coordinator for South Carolina. I really like this hire. They just haven't taken much of a step forward. I mean, he was really good. I think he was at Western Kentucky before this. He was a really good DC there. It's hard to put together a really good defense at a group of 5 school. He did that. Anyway, it just hasn't quite worked out. On the drive efficiency number, they've struggled giving up too many long drives for points. They've been susceptible to big plays, number 50 overall on explosive drives. Their negative drives number is pretty good, relatively speaking. They've been able to force some 3-and-outs, force some turnovers, and that's certainly a plus. No big run pass split here. This should be a fun matchup. Both of these teams kind of have underperformed in the last couple seasons. Is anybody able to really impose their will on this side of the ball? We'd certainly learn something if they were. Other side of the football, the South Carolina offense has largely been lost. Dow Lugans is your offensive. Oh my gosh, there it is. Is your offensive play caller here. Brad White's your Kentucky defensive coordinator. This offense for South Carolina, even with Spencer Rattler, really has struggled. I mean, the idea that you could just plug in a quarterback and all your problems are suddenly solved, Spencer Rattler started to prove that. And I think what you saw at Oklahoma and then what you've seen of him in the NFL should tell you that it was maybe not a Spencer Rattler problem. Sometimes a quarterback isn't going to fix everything. Anyway, sometimes you might need a new play caller. And maybe new players all around, maybe some offensive linemen in South Carolina. They struggled with drive efficiency, being able to sustain drives to put up points, a function of execution and play calling. They've struggled with explosive drives. This is, again, sometimes setting up big plays is setting them up. They've struggled to put up big plays here. They've struggled with negative drives, too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. They're definitely a lot more effective running the ball right now than they are throwing the ball. Lenoris Sellers is your quarterback. He definitely adds a lot in the run game. That's good because he completed 43.5% of his passes last week, 5.0 per. Those are triple option numbers. Anyway, if you're Michigan, maybe your quarterback's also putting up triple option type numbers. Which is, again, like South Carolina played a bad opponent last week. Those are some bad numbers for a bad opponent. Brad White has been the defensive coordinator at Kentucky. They've had some really good years. They've had some less good years on the defensive side of the football. Right now, with the mix of this season and last season data, we've got them at 42. The drive efficiency number is at 87. They've struggled. They've given up some long drives for points. They're better at containing big plays, and they're really good at negative drives. They're forcing 3-and-outs, forcing turnovers. They don't have a big run pass split. Again, I'm excited to see this here. Like, this game is largely going to turn on their ability to contain the South Carolina run game, or this side of the ball is going to turn on that. Is Kentucky able to show up and scheme this? It's going to be an interesting question. Or does South Carolina actually have something with Sellers on the ground that they can actually exploit as a weapon? Having a running, like a truly running quarterback these days is a bit unusual in the Power 4. I'm interested to see what this looks. I'm really interested to see what this looks like at a school like South Carolina. We've got this Kentucky 63% win probability, 3.9 in the naive spread, and about 8 in the predicted points. All right. This is a fun one. Oklahoma State comes in with a lot of expectations into this season. They won a lot of games by luck, though, last season rather than by being really good at football. Not that they were terrible last year. They just weren't as good as their advanced stats ranking did not quite match up with their wins and losses. But this game is important for both teams. Sam Pittman probably has more pressure on him than Mike Gundy. Gundy's safe is probably quite safe. But both of these teams would absolutely like to come out of here with a win. The offense, Casey Dunn is your offensive coordinator for Oklahoma State. This is his third year. He hasn't really gotten it going offensively. I'm kind of hopeful for him. He's the longtime wide receivers coach at Oklahoma State, produced some really good guys back when Oklahoma State had a really good offense throwing the football around. That's not really the case these days. Of course, the headliner here is Ollie Gordon. Who did not get suspended for any games. Oklahoma State sits at 80 overall with the mix of this season and last season data. They've kind of struggled under Dunn to get it going. They've struggled for the last couple seasons. Like Mike Gundy kind of lost his fastball hiring offensive coordinators. Their drive efficiency number, they struggled to put up long drives for points. Explosive drives, they're a bit better here, and negative drives as well, a bit better at avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. They definitely have a run-pass split here. They're going to look to run the ball first with Ollie Gordon. Alan Bowman, the former Texas Tech quarterback, is your QB here, 72.7% completion percentage, 7.4 per. We're switching over too early. I was like, Bobby Petrino, in that kind of voice. Travis Williams is your defensive coordinator for Arkansas. We've got him at 35 right now. I'm interested to see where this Arkansas defense shakes out this season. I think they might need the defense to have a really good year. Their drive efficiency number is solid. They find ways to get off the field and not give up points, use the field to their advantage, but they are giving up some big plays. That's something they're going to have to clean up here. They need to force more 3 and outs, force more turnovers. They are better against the run than they are against the pass. Oklahoma State last game actually threw the ball around a little bit more, but they're probably going to look to run it here. This is a good sign for Arkansas that they can contain the run a little bit better. I'm excited to see what they look like against this Ollie Gordon rushing attack. Flip it around. Bobby Petrino is your offensive coordinator for Arkansas. Coming home. one of Bobby Petrino's homes around college football. He could practically, if he had not sold any of his houses from his coaching stops, he could run his own little Verbo. Anyway, who do we have here? Oh, Brian Nardo is your defensive coordinator for Oklahoma State. They've fallen off, of course, a little bit. I'm interested to see where they are this season. They've fallen off since the high that they had when Jim Knowles was your defensive coordinator there. Offensively, Arkansas is really kind of struggling right now. We've got them at 124 overall. They drive efficiency was their best number, 89 here. They're at 123 in explosive drive, just not putting up enough big plays. 126 in negative drives, 99 in effective rush, 124 in effective pass. They're a little better throwing the ball than they are running the ball. Taylor Green's your quarterback here, 69.6% completion percentage, 10.0 per. We don't know a lot about this. I mean, Arkansas, this is a ton of last season data and some not so great data, I think, from the first game. I'm excited to see what they look like against, somebody with a pulse here. This Oklahoma State defense, we've got it number 8 overall right now. Did I forget to switch this out? I must have. This is, oh my God. I'm so sorry. Let me get the right numbers in. What you are looking at is the Michigan defense from last season against the Iowa offense. And that would be very different than these numbers. It's like, these don't feel right. Apologies. This is a quick swap out. It's early season. I'm not in late season form. I was like, number 80, more like, okay, that's better. We'll just redo this. That's better. That's more like it. Anyway, so the Arkansas offense isn't bad. They're not the Iowa offense from last season. They're at 34 right now. They're pretty good at drive efficiency, sustaining drives to put up points. They need to put up some more big plays, and they're struggling a little bit with 3 and outs and turnovers. Something to keep an eye on here. They're better throwing the ball than they are running the ball. That makes a lot more sense given Taylor Green's numbers from last week, and Bobby Petrino is an offensive play caller. This makes vastly more sense. Oklahoma State, like I said, they've been a little lost in the wilderness since Knowles left. Nardo's your play caller here. Their drive efficiency is at 58 overall. They struggled a little bit more at giving up big plays, and they struggled with forcing 3 and outs and forcing turnovers thus far. Not a big run pass split. I'm excited to see both of these units here, both to find out. I mean, like, I have a pretty good idea. Oklahoma State's probably going to finish defensively somewhere in the 40s, maybe the high 30s, I think. Where's this Arkansas offense really shake out? What do they look like under Petrino? Against real live competition, are they able to take a step forward? He's a pretty good offensive play caller most days. Oklahoma State, 61% win probability in this game, 3.23. We've got them by 11 in the predicted score. I feel like this game is going to be closer than that, though. Definitely want to keep an eye on here. I think if Arkansas for me is an interesting team coming into this year with Petrino at offensive coordinator. Oh man, I got these. There we go. San Jose State at Air Force. This should be a really fun one. Ken Niumatalolo is your new head coach at San Jose State. He's not running the triple. Troy Calhoun is your head coach for Air Force. Craig Stutzman is your offensive coordinator for San Jose State. Was it Hawaii with June Jones? Definitely is going to spread the ball out and throw it. Should be an interesting one here. Offensively, like San Jose State grades out pretty well right now in these numbers. We've got them at 41 overall. That's a pretty good group of 5 unit right there. They're at 47 in drive efficiency and 30 in explosive drives. 65 in negative drives. They certainly need to force some more 3 and outs, need to force some more turnovers, something to keep an eye on coming into this game. The when you flip it around though and look over at Air Force, this team, this is a pretty good number for them at 36 overall coming into this season. I did it again. I did it on this one too. I was like, these numbers seem really good for these teams. Oh man. Definitely not in late season form. Let's get the other one while I'm at it to make sure. All right. So these look far more reasonable for these teams. 108 in drive efficiency. They've struggled, San Jose State, to be able to, sustain long drives to put up points, but they've been pretty explosive thus far in this small season. And again, there's some last year data in here too. Their negative drives number is pretty good, avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. They lean a lot more into throwing the ball than they are running the ball. Niumatalolo is definitely not going to be accused of being a triple guy anymore. You get an Air Force defense under Brian Knorr as your defensive coordinator. They've been pretty good. I mean, they're definitely going to be better at defending the run throughout the season than they are against the pass. It's hard to recruit defensive backs to the academies. They're struggling thus far with drive efficiency, though. You can put together long drives for points against them. Bit better against explosive drives. Their play efficiency numbers pretty good, and forcing 3-and-outs and forcing turnovers has been really solid for them. Not a big run pass split for them. I'm interested to see how that holds up in this game. Emmett Brown is your quarterback for San Jose State. 58.8% completion percentage, 8.8 per. You flip it over the other side of the football, this Air Force offense, which has been, I mean, definitely has to be when Air Force is good, the offense is the engine of the team. Mike Thiessen's your offensive coordinator here. Their drive efficiency number, and again, like for the academies, like a ground and pound offense, like drive efficiency is the name of the game. Like big plays are great. Getting first downs is the big thing when you're running the triple. They struggle a bit with explosive drives. That's a trade-off they're happily willing to make. Their negative drives number, avoiding 3-and-outs, avoiding turnovers. This one's the number that if they're going to clean things up, it's got to start here. Definitely a big run pass split for them. That is no surprise at all. Derek Odom is still your defensive coordinator at San Jose State. He was there under, I'm just like literally looking at his face right now. He's the new head coach at Arizona, which I should know. And it's just not. Brent Brennan. He's the defensive coordinator of Brent Brennan. Now he's still the defensive coordinator at San Jose State. Niumatalolo kept him on. This isn't a bad ranking, to be frank, for a group of 5 team defense sitting at 111 overall. They are really, really struggling with drive efficiency, though. You can put together long drives to put up points against these guys. They're a lot better at explosive drives and a lot better at negative drives, forcing 3-and-outs, forcing turnovers. I expect these numbers to even out a bit more. As the season goes on. We'll definitely get some data on this here. No big run pass split here. John Busha is your quarterback for Air Force. 42.9% completion percentage, 5.1 per. He definitely brings something to the ground game. This game is going to come down to, can San Jose, this is going to be a really interesting contrast in styles, of course. San Jose State's going to have to stop the run game. Which they may struggle at a little bit. I mean, given the determination that Air Force runs the football with, it's hard to prepare for a triple team. Even though, if definitely having Niumatalolo there on staff is going to help. But then you flip it around and the San Jose State wants to throw the ball. That is usually the best way to be able to exploit a service academy, is being able to throw the football around. We've got an Air Force with a 58% win probability at home, 2.56. We've got this as San Jose State by 12 in the predicted points model. You can talk me into either of those, to be frank. I do think San Jose State might come out of here with the win, though, given that they should be able to throw the ball around quite a bit. Something to keep an eye on. Stutzman calling plays for San Jose State, I think, over the season. He might have been a really, really good pickup. I actually liked... And he's still on staff. Brennan's offensive coordinator is still on staff at San Jose State. I actually liked him better than Dino Babers at Arizona, who got the Arizona offensive coordinator job as well. I thought he ran a really smart offensive scheme that could adapt to the personnel that he had. Anyway, that's it. That's the show for the first week. Apologies for the confusion on not having the right visuals at the right times. I'm really excited for this week. We're going to learn a lot, and we're going to learn a lot probably over the next couple weeks about who these teams are, and then we'll start to get like a really firm grip on where teams sit, and then we'll be able to call which things are upsets and which things are unusual and what the really, really best matchups are going to be. But let's all celebrate that football is back, and these are some, I don't think some of these, look, there's a good chance, of course, that a handful of these games could turn into blowouts, but these all project to be pretty close games. Really excited to watch them. That's enough. That is enough for week 1. Anyway, let's do no, that's not the one. This one. You can find all these stats you saw and a whole lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. I'm Rob Bowron. I'm the econometrician behind BetaRank, and you can find me at BetaRank FB and at Sharp College Football. You can, of course, find us at the YouTube channel, Sharp College Football.